4 years ago, 1,100 family homes were burned in Santa Cruz County. Since that point, only 37 have been rebuilt. Of the 1,100 homes, only 37 have been rebuilt. And we have equipment, computers, consultants, we have all manner of stuff. We have everything and government because the permitting process is so difficult to rebuild. It's the idea that we're going to make it so safe. And safe for who? I mean, it's not safe for the people that haven't rebuilt. They're living in tents and yurts and all over the place, or dying in some cases, because it's so cold and they're depressed. And it's not safe for them. It's very safe for the county because you can't be sued if nothing ever happens.
Hello and welcome to Bay Area Innovators. I'm your host, Steve Espas. Our guest today is Tom Decker. Tom has been a real estate owner, residential developer, and builder of affordable homes for over 40 years. He lives in Santa Cruz County, and following the August 2020 CSU fire that destroyed almost 1,100 homes in the area, Tom dedicated himself to build homes for friends and neighbors whose houses were destroyed. Today, we will talk to Tom about the process and obstacles related to building homes in Santa Cruz County, as well as solutions and other issues. Tom, welcome to our program.
Thank you, Steve. Pleasure to be here.
You know, Santa Cruz County, most of us are familiar with Santa Cruz. It's a beautiful place to go and hang out. 2020 August, there was a big fire, the CSU fire, that destroyed close to 1,100 homes.
Yes.
And from what I understand, only a very few have been rebuilt since then. Please tell us what this problem is with rebuilding homes in Santa Cruz.
Very interesting. And to give you a little historic perspective, on July 17th, 1891, there was a big fire in Boulder Creek. And the entire downtown of Boulder Creek burned down in one day, except for one building. The next day, the locals got together, started a volunteer fire department, and decided to rebuild. And 2 years later, they rebuilt downtown Boulder Creek, the Boulder Creek you see today. So it took them 2 years to rebuild it, and this is 1891. So they had no cars, they had no trucks, they had no power tools, no computers, they had nothing, just hand tools and horses and oxen. And they also had no government. So if we scroll forward to 4 years ago, in August, starting in August and into September, 1,100 family homes were burned in Santa Cruz County. About 550 in the 5th district and about 550 in the 3rd district of the county. Since that point, only 37 have been rebuilt. Of the 1,100 homes, only 37 have been rebuilt. And we have equipment, computers, consultants, we have all manner of stuff. We have everything and government. So the reason why so few homes have been rebuilt is because the permitting process is so difficult to rebuild that the homes that could have been there are not. And the government is doing this, the county is doing this, in my opinion, because I've been working with them for 2 years. They're doing it because they want the homes that do go there to be perfect. They want folks to be very, very safe. And there are so many requirements and new mandates that by the time you get through all of them, you run out of time and money and people just quit.
So it is different than other counties. There's more requirements than other counties?
Impressively more. We have the Coastal Commission. Mm-hmm. The Coastal Commission says any structure within 10 to 12 miles from the coast has to go through a special review. And then because we're on the San Lorenzo watershed, which is the San Lorenzo River, the state is mandating that for any new construction, they have to have something called an enhanced system, septic system, which costs about $120,000, takes a year of extra engineering to put in. And then those are just the tip of the spear. They require each home to have their own water system, their own hydrant, special foundations, on and on. And the idea is the county is trying to make sure that they mitigate for all disasters. I mean, one of my favorite ones was someone that's being asked to build a foundation because they found that 500,000 years, and maybe 1 million, they're not too sure on the date, there was a debris flow, a deep debris flow. And so
In a million years, there could be a debris flow, and they're worried about that.
They're telling this homeowner, in order for him to be safe, they've designed a foundation which is going to cost $500,000, but it will mitigate, they hope, if there's another big earthquake in his lifetime. I can tell you this homeowner would rather have his $500,000. It's that sort of thing. It's the idea that we're going to make it so safe. And safe for who? I mean, it's not safe for the people that haven't rebuilt. They're living in tents and yurts and all over the place, or dying in some cases, because it's so cold and they're depressed. And it's not safe for them. It's very safe for the county because you can't be sued if nothing ever happens.
How do people feel about that? What's their reaction?
Well, I will tell you by an unscientific gauge. So I've been talking to folks for a couple of years, meeting with them, small groups, larger groups, talking about housing like that. And I always sort of start out my discussion, if let's say there's 50 people in the room, I'll say, okay, so just by a show of hands, let me see the number of people who personally have had a problem with the building, planning, or environmental health department. Just raise your hand. They raise their hands. I say, keep them up. Now, for everybody else, how many people know someone from family, church, neighbor like that that's had a problem dealing with the planning, building, environmental, and health department? And everybody else raises their hand. Every time, everybody raises their hand. We saw that at the forum last evening. How many have problems with the county planning, building, environmental, health department? And this was it, the candidates forum of all the candidates. Everyone in the room raised their hand.
We'll get to the candidacy soon. Talk to us about the reason for having the $120,000 septic tank you mentioned. Each house is required to have one. And from what I understand, living in the mountains, you need a septic tank. That's a requirement. But why is this requirement for having this super enhanced mod?
Excellent question. So the San Lorenzo River, which runs through the San Lorenzo Mountains, is 26 miles long. And
beautiful river, I've seen it before.
It's a beautiful river. As a matter of fact, they used to have a salmon hatchery and a sockeyed salmon hatcheries. It was the place to fish. We don't have those fish anymore because the hatcheries are gone. But on that river, a very mountainous area, and so there are 14,000 private septic systems. We have one in our house. The Safeway store has one. And the private system is basically, for a home, it's a 16-gallon tank with 2 baffles and a gravity overflow that goes into a leach field. It's the standard thing. So it's what you call a septic system. And septic systems, we all have them in the mountains because the mountains are so rugged. Septic water needs to flow, it's gravity, so that doesn't work. So everyone has this. Now, the San Lorenzo River, which runs through the watershed, at the mouth of the river, which is where the boardwalk is, if you've been to Santa Cruz where the rides are,
yes,
the state of California has taken water samples, and they have found in those water samples traces of E. coli, human feces. So obviously, there's human waste getting in the river. So the conclusion of Sacramento is, well, it must be from those 14,000 systems that are there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to mandate that every home, first they said, well, when you buy or sell a home, it has to have an enhanced system, which is a septic system with more baffles, more redundancies, more filters, but also has a 24-hour monitoring. So it's monitored 24/7 by an independent group. And if the tank overflows, even a drop of water, it'll cause the alarm to go off. They'll come out, they'll reset it, they'll see what's wrong, they'll reset it. So the monthly monitoring is about $500 a month. And the reset fee is $2,500. The cost of the equipment to put it in is about between $120,000 to $150,000. And since there's only 2 companies that do it, the waiting time is a year to a year and a half. Now this was the state's solution to let's require all 14,000 of these homes to be updated because we got human waste in the river.
So they are required to update it?
They tried that last year. It's called the LAMP. So LAMP, acronym for Local Area Management Plan, LAMP. And the idea was, in order to clean up your river, we're going to require everybody here to spend a fortune and take many, many years to do this. Now here's the interesting thing. On the San Lorenzo River, because we have a homeless problem in the county, there are between 50 to 100 people who live on the river. They're in tents. They use the river as a toilet. And the human waste that they leave there is what is also being measured at the other end. But homeless people in Santa Cruz County have a special designation. They're like marine mammals. You can't tell them what to do, where to go. You don't even count them. They're like a natural. And so the state completely discounts that maybe what's in the river could have come from the 100 people that are using it as their toilet. Mm-hmm. They don't look at that, because if you don't count that mess, if you don't measure that, why, then it's not really there. So their default plan is, let's go after the people, these 14,000 homeowners that are here. We can really get them because they're on the tax rolls.
That's a pretty amazing story, how
Isn't it?
You would charge millions of dollars of the homeowners, but not address the issue of 100 people who are using the river as a
Now, I'll give
toilet.
you an example of how ludicrous it is. Because we're in the process of trying to build a house for a couple. It's an ADU. Mm-hmm. So it's about, I think, 1,000 square feet, 1,300 square foot house on an acre of land. Their kids live there, and their grandchildren live there. So they want to move there. And they are located 6 miles from the San Lorenzo River. This property is 6 miles from the river. Now, the river's not flat. Mm-hmm. It's 6 miles up, 2 mountain ranges. On the other side of Henry Cole Park is the river from their site. Yet they're being required, and this process has already been delayed a year, and they're being required to put in this system on the off chance that some gray water from this system would somehow get out
and travel 6 miles.
6 miles up and over hills and get into the river.
Who makes these decisions? Is it the state of
It's a
California?
mandate. It's a mandate.
Who makes the mandate?
Well, I could make a mandate saying, I'm mandating you to wear blue shoes tomorrow. I could do that. And you might not wear blue shoes. So it's not a law. It's like, I'm mandating this. Let it be done, so therefore do it. And since it's unfunded, it's an unfunded mandate, meaning you must do this thing. We're not going to give you the money to do it, but just go do it. Now, the Board of Supervisors in counties have broad powers. They have full executive power, they have full legislative power. They also have full judicial power, they call it quasi-judicial. But in fact, they have all powers of the 3 branches of government in their hands. And they could, if they wanted to, tell the state of California, well, it's an interesting mandate, thank you for sharing that, but we will not implement it. They could do that.
But as of right now,
they never do that.
So it's not implemented.
Well, unfortunately, it is. Well, let me answer that this way. Over a year ago, they tried to mandate that for all existing structures, meaning any piece of real estate that you bought or sold, you'd have to have this enhanced system. Well, that would absolutely kill the real estate market. We list, as a county, maybe 60 or 70 homes a month. Mm-hmm. And if you can only put in 2 systems a month, that would sort of stop everything. So there was a lot of upset. And I'm building some houses. I talked to some other realtors heard about it. They all showed up at the County Board of Supervisors meeting, filled the room full of people. And after about 250 people got up and said, I don't want this, the Board of Supervisors said, well, I guess we're going to take that mandate that the state has put on us and not do it.
So the people have spoken.
The people have spoken, but then the county supervisors have quietly acted. Because a few months later, when nobody was looking on the consent calendar, they said enhanced systems are required for ADUs. Just put a little line in when nobody noticed it. So new construction, new conditioned space. They didn't actually say ADUs. So if you're going to build a new conditioned space, meaning a home in Santa Cruz County, in the unincorporated area, you have to have an enhanced system. They put that in when no one was looking. And it got by because not many people are building houses there. So if you're the unfortunate one, like one of my customers building a house, you get to pay $120,000 more, wait another year. But most people aren't, so they were able to slip that in.
Next thing I want to ask you is, like, out of the 1,100 homes that were, the people who lived in those homes, what are they doing now? How do they live? Where do they live?
It's pretty tragic, really. Many families have just given up and sold their lots and moved. Although most are holding on to their lots, and we're building homes for people that are living in tents, yurts, little trailers. One of the couples that we're building a home for, they're in their 90s, and they're living in their daughter's garage for the last 3 years. Some people stay right on their site, and they'll have a tent or a yurt. They kind of camp there. Because the insurance money, the insurance paid for about 3 years. After the incident, they'll pay the rent or the mortgage for 3 years. They figure that's about how long it'll take you to rebuild. Except in Santa Cruz County, it takes who knows how long. So they no longer have the insurance proceeds, so they either have to live on their land, and the tragic part is for a lot of people, they still have a mortgage on an empty lot. So the lot might be worth $200,000, their mortgage is $400,000, and there's no house there. But they have to continue to pay that until they can build a house. It's a very tough situation.
According to the county, since 1980, 80,000 people moved into the county, but only 26,000 homes were built. What changed? What changed since 1980? As you've been there for a long time, is there an ideology change? And what change have you seen since this last 40 years?
I'll tell it with a quote. So after the fire, again, this is going on 4 years in this August, the county and FEMA and the state and federal people were all around helping everyone, meeting with us, giving us blankets and good words, and it's going to be okay, and fill out this form and fill out that form. So they were called the survivor meetings. And one of my customers was at one of those meetings, and we'd been to a lot of them, so they're just introducing themselves and saying, here we are, we're here to help, we're the government, we're here to help you. And so at one of the breaks, and there was a time where the folks were take a break, there's a table with pastries and drinks and like that, and one of the presenters, this woman was the head of the environmental health department at that time. There's 3 departments that have to sign off on a permit: planning, building, environmental health. So all of them very important. So she was the head of it. She just made a presentation about the forms to fill out, how to contact us, and how to get started, and here's the process, the beginning of it. So during the break, she's at this table, and she has 2 or 3 staff members with her. And my customer was next to her getting a donut or something. He's in a wheelchair, so no one really noticed him. And he heard this woman, the head of the department, say, it's really a shame that so many people lost their homes in the fire, but they shouldn't have been living up here anyway. This is the woman who's in charge of permitting it.
What does she mean by that?
They shouldn't have been living up there anyway. Well, let's look at her actions. Of the 40 applicants that she had, she rejected 39 of them. Well, she didn't reject. She said, you're going to need to put an enhanced septic system in here, this expensive system that... So 39 of the 40, until they finally fired her. Now, she's still working for a county or municipal government somewhere. They just go to another spot. But the attitude is, well, why are you here? These mountains really should be pristine. And this gives us an opportunity for people just to leave and have them all go back to nature the way it was intended to be.
Even though people live there for generations.
Generations. One of my favorite moves is what the county did, and a lot of counties will do this. So if you lose your home in a fire, and let's say it's legal non-conforming, which means it was built years before there were codes, and it was built without code, but it's legal because it's there. It's non-conforming, meaning it doesn't conform to current code. So most counties will say after the incident, you have 3 years in which to rebuild. You can rebuild, you don't have to get a permit, it's no big deal. But after that, it goes to the new code, which means now you're going to have to go with the new code. So we have many lots in our county that are less than an acre. They're half an acre, quarter of an acre, smaller homes, smaller lots.
According to reports, the homeless population in Santa Cruz County decreased in 2023. Do you believe those reports, and what does it mean for the county?
Well, if it's from the county, I don't believe it. Last year, in 2023, the county spent $47,000 per every homeless person.
And just for comparison, that's still better than San Francisco that spends $100,000, but
Well,
please keep going.
it's more expensive to be homeless apparently in San Francisco. I have to smile at that because for $47,000, I could put one of my grandkids through college and pay for a car. Apparently that's not enough, and they're asking for additional funds. And if you're going to be homeless, and I've thought about this because I've seen, I go into Santa Cruz, the city of, in parts of the county, I see people, living along the sides of roads and building tents and like that, and I'm thinking, well, the weather's good here. They're offered free meals, good free hot meals every day. Some different church or different kitchens offering free meals. They're allowed to panhandle. They're allowed to live anywhere, go anywhere. They don't have to clean up. It's kind of the best of all worlds. You can do whatever you want and people feel sorry for you and clean up after you. So if you're going to be homeless, I would think that Santa Cruz would be, you'll find more homeless in Santa Cruz than probably in Juneau, Alaska, or Wisconsin in the winter. I think what Santa Cruz is actually doing, this is just my belief, no facts, I'm just looking at what's going on. Santa Cruz has a homeless industry. And as an industry, they have workers, they have outreach people, they have managers, they have supervisors. They spend millions and millions of dollars. And it's county money, it's federal money, it's state money, it's grant money, it's personal gifts, it's all of this to feed the homeless machine. And I think the county is actually planning or trying to make the major industry the homeless industry, which is subsidized by government. So having the decline of homeless doesn't bode well. When I came here, I noticed I got an email, and they're looking for people to help count the homeless because they need to have an accurate number, because the bigger the number, why, the more the need.
Let's talk about solutions, how to improve the Santa Cruz County overall accountability and building processes. And I know you recently decided to run for county supervisor.
Yes.
There's a primary coming up on March 5th. What are your thoughts about the improvement that can be done?
It's a cultural thing, really. Businesses have a culture, governments have a culture. And I believe that the culture of our county is one of, let's be very, very safe and make sure we don't make any mistakes. And the best way to do that is to make no decisions, particularly about housing. If elected, I would like to be able to go to, because as a county supervisor, you have broad powers to sort of talk to the folks at the top and say, what's going on here? How is this acceptable? How is it that 120 years ago, they built the whole town back with power tools in 2 years, and we can't do it in 4 years? We can't even make a start. What's wrong here? And find out what it is. And it's a matter of changing, rather than saying, we're not going to permit you to do it until you've approved all that stuff. I was coming back from the county a few weeks ago, and I was on one of the roads, and they're working on the roads. We're going through Highway 9. Mm-hmm. Cars stopped. So I'm sitting there, and I had a chance to look out, and I saw out in the field, going toward the river, a guy building a house. He had a little lean-to. He was putting up a piece of plywood and he had a shopping cart here and doing that. And I'm thinking, I wonder how you get to a permit to build on the river. And then I quickly caught myself and said, of course, he's homeless. He can do anything he wants. And I had spent 2 hours with the county trying to get a permit, to get a grading permit so we can excavate for a foundation to start on someone's house. I've been doing this for a year on this house. And I'm seeing this guy building a house right here, and I'm thinking, how does he do that? He just does it.
So we can have a homeless or a group of people build their own house or
any place they want, thing, right?
And
with no consequence.
One is going to bother them.
Well, no, that's not true. People come around from the community and clean up after them, but they don't bother them.
Why do they not bother them? Why doesn't someone intervene?
Here's what I believe. Several years before, we went up to San Francisco with some of our grandkids, and we were at Fisherman's Wharf, and there's the marina there. By Aliotos, you can stand in the second story and look down. There's all these boats, private yachts, really. On several of them, there were harbor seals, big old harbor seals like that. my grandson says, Grandpa, look, they have a pad. They have a seal for a pat. I said, I don't know if they have a seal for a pat. And someone who was there said, no, actually what happens is the harbor seals crawl up on the boats.
Yeah.
And once they're on the boat owner can't go to his boat, because the harbor seal is a protected species, a marine mammal. And so until the harbor seal decides to swim off somewhere else, you can't go on the boat. You can get in trouble going on your own boat. So that's a protected species. And by default, not by mandate, but by default, we have, at least in our county, made the homeless a special protected species. They can go anywhere, they can do anything. They can sleep on the street, they can sleep in the door, they can build a house here, they can, anything they want. I heard this incredible story that, I think it's true actually. Someone in Santa Cruz, in the city of, a homeless guy had pulled up, put a shopping cart there and set up a little tent in their front yard. And so they called the police. The cops came out and they interviewed the homeless guy, they interviewed the homeowner, and their conclusion was, until this gets worked out, homeowner, you're going to have to use the back door. Because he has the front.
That sounds like a story we would want to cover. So the homeless.
He said, I'll live here now. I'll be here now. He's like the harbor seal. Mm-hmm. I'll take this spot. And the police are like, well, until it's worked out, you know, the ombudsman and find out his needs and find out your needs, and we're just going to sort of not escalate the situation. You just use the back door.
Please tell us more how you would address some of these issues if you were elected. What are some of the changes you would make, and what's the chance of these getting implemented?
Oh, what a hard question. Well, I think the first thing to do is to start out by speaking the truth. Right now, our county has a $44 million unfunded pension deficit, which is going to continue to go up by the millions until it goes over 100 million. And that's for the pensions. So that means all of the money, the first money in the general fund goes to pay the pensions. And I was at a forum last night where candidates were saying, we need to fix the roads, we need to build a hospital, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to have all of this happen. From revenue sources, I don't know. So I think the first thing to do is say, we're out of money and we're going in debt quickly. So if we want to have county services, let's look at the important services. What can we afford? And if anything new comes to me as a supervisor, I'd say, well, it's got to pass 3 tests. The first is it needed? Someone says, well, we want to build shelters for homeless dogs. Okay, great. Is that needed? And let's say it is needed. Okay, let's say everyone says, yes, we must have homeless shelters for dogs or something like that. So then question number 2, is it something that the private sector can do more efficiently, quicker, faster, and cheaper? And we may find out, no, the private sector doesn't know how to build homeless shelters for dogs. So then you go into the third question, which is, well, if the private sector can't do it, can this be done from current revenues? No new taxes. Yes, we've got to have homeless shelters for dogs. Okay, well, that means we're going to have to not fix the potholes on Highway 9. Is that okay? Yeah, that's okay.
If the people agree with it, if they vote that way.
You got 5 supervisors. People don't have anything to do with it, unfortunately. They choose the supervisors, and the supervisors have broad executive, legislative, and judicial powers. They have all the powers in the 5.
Are all the supervisors up for re-election?
No, it's staggered. So there's the 5th district, which is an open seat because the supervisor is retiring, Bruce McPherson, after 12 years. And the 2nd district, which is also an open seat, Supervisor Friend is retiring. So the other 3 districts are not up. So it's staggered, so you don't have all new supervisors all at once.
Before coming on the show, we briefly talked about Proposition K. Tell us a little bit about what that is about and what would you do about it?
Well, I'm not going to vote for it. Measure K is a measure where the supervisors have decided, because in our county we have the unincorporated and the incorporated areas. The unincorporated areas are probably about 80% of the county. Incorporated areas are the city of Scotts Valley, the city of Santa Cruz, the city of Capitola, and the city of Watsonville, which is about where half our population is. The other half of the population is unincorporated. And currently there's a Measure K is to increase the sales tax in the unincorporated area by 1/2 cent to bring in $10 million worth of new revenue to the county of Santa Cruz, new annual revenue. The problem with passing that is that in order to tax the unincorporated people, state law says if you're going to tax, if you propose a body of, to tax a body of people, they have to vote 2/3 to accept it. Otherwise, not. And which makes sense. You want 2/3 of the people saying, yeah, I'm willing to be taxed. But the county supervisor said, let's do it a different way. Let's make it a countywide tax. Everyone in the county will vote on it. And since only half the people in the county will have to pay the tax, and it's countywide, it only needs a simple majority. So only 50% instead of 2/3. So now you have this interesting situation where half the people voting on it are not the ones who are going to pay for it. So taxation without representation, which 248 years ago, a bunch of colonists fought the British over that one. They thought it was not right.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
People vote for taxes, but they're not going to
They're not going to do it, but other ones will.
Yeah.
And the supervisor set it up that way so it would be a simple 50-50 or 50% or plurality. You know, they don't need a supermajority, which is
make
great.
it even easier to pass.
Even easier. So you have half the people voting for it will not pay the tax, and you only need 50%. So pretty simple. Now, the points for the yes on K, their points are, we're going to help the homeless, we're going to give money to frontline workers, we're going to fix roads, we're going to do all that stuff, which is what the county does anyway. But in point of fact, the money goes right into the general fund, and the general fund by law must pay the unfunded liability, which is the CalPERS retirement in this year, 2023, was 43 million bucks liability. So that means all of this $10 million is going to pay the unfunded liability. And there it is. So it's a clever scheme where the county supervisors are trying to get half the people to vote to tax the other people to fund their retirement plan. I'm voting no on it.
Tom, anything else you'd like to add?
If you live in the 5th District of Santa Cruz County, please vote for me on March 5th.
Thank you so much for your time. Really enjoyed having you on our show.
It was great fun, Steve. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.